Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the European Day of Languages 2024.
Feliz Día Europeo de las Lenguas. I'm Anna Solemena. I work on multilingualism in the Department of Education of the European Commission. With Mariusz today, we will be your hosts.
Thank you, Anna. My name is Mariusz Czarnecki. I work on promoting languages and translation in the Directorate General for Translation. And speaking of translation, our event is of course multilingual, so you can select the language of your subtitles in your YouTube channel.
Did you see, Mario, just before we started speaking, the animated poster illustrating all 24 EU official languages?
Yes, Anna, it was beautiful. I hope our participants have seen it as well. Actually, every year we produce a new multilingual poster to celebrate the European Day of Languages. And we did so also this year. You can download it for free. We are united in diversity, we are multilingual, so we always also choose a motto for the poster. This year, our motto is many languages, one Europe.
Indeed, Marius, and that motto aligns very nice with the theme of today's event, Europeans and their languages. We are going to present to you and comment with some of our member states and experts the results of the Eurobarometer on Europeans and their languages, which we issued a couple of months ago. It was 12 years since the last one, Marius, so this is going to give us a lot of data about how Europeans feel about their languages, which ones do they speak, when do they speak them, in which situation, how did they learn, what motivates them about learning, all kinds of data, and we will be able to compare that with the situation 12 years ago.
Yes, Anna, let's learn then how good actually Europeans are at languages, what languages they learn, how they feel about multilingualism. However, before we get there, I suggest we first hear a message from Commissioner Ivanova in charge of innovation, culture, research, education and youth in the European Commission.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the online event for the European Day of Languages. Bonjour et bienvenue à cet événement en ligne pour la Journée européenne des langues. Здравейте и добре дошли на това онлайн събитие за Европейския ден на езиците. This is a day to celebrate multilingualism and the fascinating diversity of European languages. Multilingualism is at the heart of the European education area, our long-term vision in European education policy. We have set the objective for young people to be proficient in 2 languages other than their mother tongue before the end of secondary education. And many of you joining us today will help to make this a reality in schools, higher education institutions, and in public policy. Our Erasmus Plus program provides opportunities for thousands of students, teachers, and organizations to travel and learn in foreign language settings. And now, online language support is also available for Erasmus Plus participants to hone their skills before they set off on an Erasmus adventure. As well as being a vital life skill, European languages are also an expression of the European culture. The Creative Europe program promotes the culture of language with initiatives to empower endangered language communities and foster cultural exchange. Every year we support the translation of literary works so that language is not a limitation to knowledge, but instead is a multiplier of art, culture, and comprehension. The Eurobarometer survey illustrates how much Europeans cherish languages. Europeans see multilingualism as a skill. They want language skills to be promoted in schools, universities, and workplaces. And in overwhelming numbers, they want regional and minority languages to be protected. The European Day of Languages is an opportunity to reflect on how best to answer these calls of European citizens. I wish you very fruitful discussions. Благодаря, merci, thank you.
In the European Commission, we all speak many languages, we work with many languages, all of us. However, there are 3 directorates general that specifically deal with multilingualism. And I am very happy that today we have with us the directors general of these 3 services, who want to celebrate the European Day of Languages with us and will tell us in a nutshell how their services contribute to keeping Europe multilingual.
Absolutely, Marius. And they will tell us their messages in their own mother tongue. So don't forget that you can change the language of the subtitles in the YouTube channel if you need to. We will start with my own Director General, Mrs. Pia Rankilde Hansen, Director General for Education, Youth, Sport and Culture.
Glædelig europæisk sprogdag. Joyeuse journée européenne des langues. Happy European Day of Languages. Froher europäischer Tag der Sprachen. Det er mig en glæde at åbne dette online arrangement i dag for at fejre flersprogethed i Europa. Sproglig mangfoldighed er en af Europas skatte, og den er nedfældet i vores charter om grundlæggende rettigheder. Bare på mit kontor her i Bruxelles har jeg fornøjelsen til daglig af kolleger, der taler engelsk, fransk, polsk, græsk, irsk og meget mere. Og med 24 officielle sprog og 3 forskellige alfabeter er flersprogethed kernen i vores motto, forenet i mangfoldighed. Derfor er det så vigtigt, at vi markerer denne europæiske sprogdag. For at gøre status over de seneste fremskridt, vi har gjort med hensyn til at undervise i sprog til en ny generation af europæere, for at lære at pionere inden for sprogindlæring, og for at se fremad mod et stadig mere flersproget Europa. Fordi for tusindvis af mennesker, unge og lidt ældre, er indlæring af et nyt sprog en vigtig færdighed i at opbygge karriere, venskaber og fremtidsudsigter, hvilket fremgår af resultaterne af Eurobarometerundersøgelsen om europæere og deres sprog. Og sammen med regeringerne i hele Europa arbejder EU på at sikre, at elever overalt får mulighed for at lære mindst 2 nye sprog inden afslutningen af deres ungdomsuddannelse. Som vi vil se, spiller det europæiske uddannelsesområde og EU-programmer som Erasmus+ en væsentlig rolle i at nå dette mål. Så velkommen til dette arrangement. Jeg ser frem til at dele resultaterne af Eurobarometerundersøgelsen med jer og høre nogle af de best practices, som Europa har at tilbyde inden for sprogindlæring og sprogundervisning. Mange tak.
Thank you very much, Pia. I'm very happy that we have with us today also my Director General in charge of the translation service, Kalimera Christos.
Αγαπητοί φίλοι και φίλες, γεια σας και καλή Ευρωπαϊκή ημέρα γλωσσών. Ονομάζομαι Χρήστος Ελληνίδης και είμαι Γενικός Διευθυντής της μεγαλύτερης υπηρεσίας θεσμικής μετάφρασης στον κόσμο, της Γενικής Διεύθυνσης Μετάφρασης της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής. Χαίρομαι ιδιαίτερα που γιορτάζουμε όλοι μαζί την Ευρωπαϊκή ημέρα γλωσσών στο πνεύμα και εντός του πλαισίου της ευρωπαϊκής μας ταυτότητας. Με την ευκαιρία αυτή έχουμε συγκεντρωθεί για να τιμήσουμε την περήφανη ευρωπαϊκή παράδοση της πολυγλωσσίας. Χάρη στους επαγγελματίες γλωσσικών υπηρεσιών, στους μεταφραστές και στις μεταφράστριες μας, διαφυλάσσουμε την πολυγλωσσία ως μία από τις βασικές αξίες της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Οι επαγγελματίες γλωσσικών υπηρεσιών, οι μεταφράστριες και οι μεταφραστές της υπηρεσίας μου εργάζονται ακούραστα προκειμένου όλοι οι Ευρωπαίοι πολίτες να έχουν πρόσβαση στα έγγραφα της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης και στις 24 επίσημες γλώσσες της. Μέσα από την εργασία μας, συμβάλλουμε στην πολυγλωσσία της Ευρώπης, παρέχοντας ποιοτικές μεταφράσεις και άλλες γλωσσικές υπηρεσίες. Φροντίζουμε τα κείμενα μας να είναι γραμμένα με σαφήνεια, σε μια γλώσσα που να καταλαβαίνουν οι πολίτες. Έτσι, καθιστούμε την επικοινωνία της Ευρωπαϊκής Επιτροπής αποτελεσματικότερη και στηρίζουμε τη λογοδοσία, τη διαφάνεια και τον δημοκρατικό χαρακτήρα της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Η διατήρηση της γλωσσικής και πολιτισμικής πολυμορφίας αποτελεί ένα από τα μεγαλύτερα πλεονεκτήματα μας και οφείλουμε να την προστατεύσουμε. Για να διαφυλάξουμε την πολυγλωσσία και να την καταστήσουμε ανθεκτική στις μελλοντικές εξελίξεις, αξιοποιούμε νέες τεχνολογίες, οι οποίες βασίζονται στα γλωσσικά μας δεδομένα. Και πράγματι, μετά από το ανθρώπινο δυναμικό μας, τα γλωσσικά δεδομένα αποτελούν το δεύτερο πολυτιμότερο κεφάλαιο πόρων που διαθέτουμε. Επιπλέον, έχουμε αναλάβει ηγετικό ρόλο στο δίκτυο τεχνητής νοημοσύνης της Επιτροπής, το οποίο είναι υπεύθυνο για την ανάπτυξη και την αξιοποίηση πολύγλωσσων υπηρεσιών βασισμένων στην τεχνητή νοημοσύνη. Οι υπηρεσίες αυτές είναι διαθέσιμες σε όλη την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση στο πλαίσιο του προγράμματος Ψηφιακή Ευρώπη και χρησιμοποιούνται από τα όργανα της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης, δημόσιες διοικήσεις, πανεπιστήμια, μικρομεσαίες επιχειρήσεις και άλλους επιλέξιμους χρήστες. Παράλληλα, συνεχίζουμε να στηρίζουμε το εξαιρετικά επιτυχημένο δίκτυο European Masters in Translation. Πρόκειται για ένα δίκτυο που στηρίζει την εξέλιξη της επόμενης γενιάς των Ευρωπαίων μεταφραστών και επαγγελματιών γλωσσικών υπηρεσιών, προάγοντας τις δεξιότητες που είναι απαραίτητες για να αντεπεξέλθουν στις μεταβαλλόμενες ανάγκες του κλάδου. Παραμένουμε προσιλωμένοι στην πολυγλωσσία και θα συνεχίσουμε να παρέχουμε αξιόπιστες γλωσσικές υπηρεσίες με την ίδια ποιότητα και με τον ίδιο επαγγελματισμό τώρα και στο μέλλον. Εν τέλει, η γλώσσα και η γραφή αποτελούν έκφραση της σκέψης μας και επιβεβαίωση του ευρωπαϊκού μας πολιτισμού. Σας ευχαριστώ πολύ και σας εύχομαι να απολαύσετε την Ευρωπαϊκή ημέρα γλωσσών.
Thank you very much, Christos. And we have still one third and final service that is super important, working full-time on languages, interpretation, of course. And we have the Director General with us. Bienvenida, Beba.
Feliz Día Europeo de las Lenguas a todos los profesionales y amantes de las lenguas. Y a todos vosotros, ciudadanos de la Unión Europea, que apreciáis la belleza y la importancia de la diversidad lingüística y cultural de nuestro continente. Me llamo Genoveva Ruiz Calavera y soy la Directora General de la Dirección General de Interpretación de la Comisión Europea. Proporcionamos servicios de interpretación de conferencias a las instituciones, organismos y agencias europeas y nos aseguramos de que la comunicación en Europa sea perfecta, inclusiva y eficaz en todas las 24 lenguas oficiales de la Unión Europea. En la Dirección General de Interpretación todos los días vivimos y respiramos lenguas y multilingüismo, ya que nuestros equipos de intérpretes cualificados trabajan sin descanso para transmitir mensajes de un idioma a otro en innumerables reuniones y cumbres, además de para ayudar a que los ciudadanos participen en el proceso democrático en el idioma que prefieran. En estos tiempos tan complejos que estamos viviendo, es importante recordar que el multilingüismo contribuye al entendimiento mutuo, a la cooperación y a tener un sentido de unidad entre los ciudadanos europeos y a construir puentes con el resto del mundo. En este mundo diverso y cambiante, la profesión de interpretación no debe perder de vista los nuevos retos y oportunidades que no dejan de surgir. Tenemos que sacar partido de todos los avances tecnológicos a nuestra disposición y aprovechar de manera segura y ética todo el potencial de la inteligencia artificial. Esto garantizará que los intérpretes estén bien preparados para proporcionar una interpretación de alta calidad a la vez que se aseguran de que la comunicación sea más accesible, eficaz, sostenible e inclusiva. Por eso trabajamos estrechamente con universidades y otros socios para estar preparados para afrontar juntos los retos de una Europa diversa y multicultural. Hoy, en este Día Europeo de las Lenguas, nos unimos para apoyar los valores del entendimiento lingüístico y cultural y para seguir trabajando por una Unión Europea en la que la comunicación sea accesible para todos y se valoren y celebren todas las lenguas. Gracias y feliz Día Europeo de las Lenguas.
Muchísimas gracias, Beba. Indeed, we have seen that the Commission is a very multilingual institution that is also promoting language learning among its citizens, notably with Erasmus+, and it's taking care of passing its messages in everyone's mother tongues through the translation and interpretation services, and also offering some new digital tools at the disposal of all the citizens to help them work in many languages.
But Anna, is there even a need to remain multilingual for the European Union? Are the Europeans in favor of that? Isn't English actually a new lingua franca anyway?
Very important questions you are asking me. I'm very partial if we should stay multilingual. I would say yes, but I wonder what is it that our citizens have told us. So let's go without further ado to the results of the Eurobarometer, Europeans and their languages. So we have asked citizens from 15 years old about many things. I'm going to start with the results on the attitude towards multilingualism. And I'm glad to tell you, Marius, it was very positive. So the first question we ask is, should everyone be able to speak at least one language other than their mother tongue? And the results were very positive. 86% of our citizens thinks, yes, everyone should speak at least one foreign language. The second question we asked is, should regional and minority languages be protected? And there again, very good numbers. 84% consider that they should be protected. A third policy question we asked is, should improving language skills, should it be a policy priority? And again, 76% consider that yes, it should be. So citizens are with us. We are not working for nothing.
Multilingualism, yes.
Exactly. And then the fourth one, which is quite linked to our own objective in education, which the Commissioner mentioned before, that every European youth leave secondary school with their language of schooling +2. Yeah. How are we doing with that? Well, we were asking this final statement, should everyone speak more than one foreign language? So that would be at least 2. And there the numbers are not bad. It's lower than for one foreign language, but still nearly 70%, 69% of Europeans think that we should speak more than one.
That's indeed really great news for the EU and for our multilingualism. However, we also checked, Anna, if the Europeans or what languages are actually the most widely spoken in Europe. We wanted to check what the mother tongues are. It doesn't come as a surprise that German scores first with 19%, considering the population, followed by French with 15% and Italian spoken by 13% of our Europeans. It's followed then by Polish, Spanish, Dutch, and Romanian.
Exactly. So there the correlation with the population of Europe is very clear. But now we start to get into more interesting ground, perhaps. What are the foreign languages spoken? This is where we were very curious. So we ask our citizens, can you have a conversation in another language than your own mother tongue? And 59% of the respondents said, yes, I can have a conversation in at least one. Then 28% said in at least 2, and 11% at least 3. Okay, so not too bad. So 3 in 5 can have a conversation. And then we said, okay, but let's look at the young people, 15 to 24 years of age, and let's see how they are doing. And those are the results that you can see in red. So there the numbers are much higher. 79%, so 4 out of 5, can have a conversation in a foreign language, and 39% in at least 2. Okay, 3 is already very challenging. We'll stay with 15%. But this means that there is a change of trend. So citizens are becoming more multilingual. The new generation is more multilingual.
Especially the young people.
Exactly.
However, Anna, if you look at the map of the EU, you can see that there are major differences between the member states. You can see it on the map. The darker color of the country, the higher the percentages of the higher the percentage of citizens who actually speak at least one another language. The European multilingual champions are Luxembourg, with 99% of the population speaking at least one another language, followed by the Netherlands with 97% and Sweden 96%. So these are the champions. However, there are countries where clearly there is much room for improvement still. When you look at Hungary, Romania or Poland, there the percentages are much lower compared to the champions we mentioned at the beginning.
Absolutely. And now let's look, Marius, which are the languages that they are learning. And I am sure that it will not come as a surprise to you that English is the most spoken foreign language. About half of the Europeans can have a conversation in English. It's followed, but at a big distance, I would say, by French, 11%, German, 10%, Spanish, 7%, and Italian, 3%. Again, let's have a look at the youth, because their numbers are always more positive. And here in particular for English, it has really gone up since 2012 by 9 percentage points to 70% of the youth. So 70% can have a conversation in English, followed by French, 14%, German, 12%, Spanish, 13%, a little bit up. But for those three languages, there has been much less change if you compare with English. So English, 47% for general population, 5 points up. For the youth, 9 points up to 70%.
And my favorite Italian is very stable at 3%.
Very stable.
We also wanted to check with our Europeans what language is actually the one, or what languages are the ones most useful for their personal development. And again, English stands out here with as many as 77% of our citizens saying English is the language they consider to be the most useful one for their development. It's followed by French and German with 14 and 13%, and then Spanish. However, English is clearly the winner here.
Yes, and we also asked citizens a very similar question. Which are the languages that you find most important for the children to learn? And there, honestly, it was very, very, very similar. 85% said English, and again, followed by German, Spanish, French, and Chinese, which starts to be a little significant.
Yeah, indeed. We also checked with the Europeans what they consider to be the main advantages of learning a new language, and 51% believe that it's the ability to work in another country that you gain through the knowledge of a language. Then 45% also thinks it's important to speak another language if you want to communicate and be understood by people in other cultures. Then some 42% also know that it's very useful on holidays abroad. Then I was a bit surprised to see that as many as 42% of the Europeans know how important the knowledge of a language is if you want to get a better job in your own country. Then some 40% also acknowledge the importance of the foreign languages at work, including during travels abroad.
Yeah, so mobility has been scoring very high. I mean, this is what the EU is about, right? You can work in any member state,
and it clearly,
but you're going to need your languages.
It's clearly very important for our citizens as well.
Yeah. Exactly. We also asked about which were the ways in which they learned their languages. Okay, so here, probably no surprise that the number one method is the language lessons at school. You know, most of us have learned our foreign languages at school or university or vocational education and training. That was 47% of the respondents. A second very good place as well to teaching yourself by watching TV, films, and listening to the radio with 20%. I really feel like this is something that has gone up a lot this time, because with all the streaming and all the platforms, we have a lot of citizens that are watching content in the original version, and this is also a very good way to learn. And then thirdly, talking informally to a native speaker with 17%.
It's also interesting to see that also 34% of our Europeans believe that the language lessons at school, university, or through vocational and educational training are actually the most effective ones. So people still want to learn languages at school and at universities and find it the most effective way to do so. Then some 9% say it's actually a good method to learn a language through talking to a native speaker. Many people, well, 8% of our citizens also know how important it is to visit another country to learn a language. Then only 7% seem to appreciate language courses, language lessons outside school education. And then another 7% is mentioning learning yourself on your own by watching TV, movies, or listening to radio.
Yeah, so these numbers may seem a bit low at first sight, but let's recall that we ask citizens to respond only one method. So they may have actually been, using several of them and find them effective, but they had to say which was the most effective, and that is why you have small numbers in general. Okay, and then another thing that we asked them was, do you prefer subtitles or do you prefer dubbed content for films and programs? This is something where we have had traditionally big differences in Europe. Some countries prefer subtitles, some countries prefer dubbing, but this is the first time, Marius, that the winner has been subtitling. So here there is a change of trend. 53% said that they prefer to watch with subtitles, 43% that they didn't. Of course, you have countries, my own Spain, Germany, who scored really for dubbing, because this is very traditional. Your own country.
In some countries, yes.
In some countries, they are so used to having subtitles. And they are also the ones that are scoring really high in English, in particular language. So you have Luxembourg, Sweden, the Netherlands, they are really, Finland, they are scoring very, very high on that.
Yes, so one of the reasons why people want to learn languages are definitely, subtitles, movies, travels abroad. We wanted to check exactly why people actually learn the languages. It turned out that the main reason that people said, or the main place where people say they use foreign languages is holidays abroad. 50% mentioned this as the very first factor. Then people use their second language on their internet a lot. Not a surprising thing at all. Then watching film, television, 39%, again subtitling. Then communication with friends, 35%. Then watching or reading the news, 29% people stated as the place where they use languages. The citizens also use it, of course, in work-related conversations. However, 28% also uses their foreign languages to be able to read books or newspapers.
Exactly. And here the percentages we have seen are higher because they could select multiple answers, and therefore we see the different uses. We also asked about motivation, like what would motivate you to learn more? And the highest score with 27% was if lessons were free. People are, money rules the world. Huh? But the second is if you had the opportunity to learn it in a country where the language is spoken. So, of course, a real use for the language is a big motivation. The third one, similarly, going 2 points up, by the way, is if there was a prospect of traveling abroad at a later stage, followed by if you were paid for it, again, the money. If you found the course which suited your schedule, because sometimes it's a constraint of time that doesn't allow us to learn. If it would lead to a promotion or some better career prospects. If there was a prospect of working abroad, in the EU, if your employer allowed you to take some time off to take the lessons. These were the most mentioned motivations. What about deterrence, though?
Exactly, Anna. So there are things that seem to discourage people from learning languages, and we checked that. Turns out the biggest discouragement for the people is their own lack of motivation. So people, 39% of our citizens say they are just not motivated enough to learn languages. Then there is the lack of time. 28% of our citizens say they just don't have the time to do it. As many as 25%, Anna, actually do not believe that they are able to learn languages. They say they are just not good at languages. So I guess they don't even give it a try. Then there are 20% saying again that it's just too expensive for them. And there is some other people who say they just don't have the opportunities to use the language and speak it with people who actually use it on an everyday basis.
Absolutely.
We actually thought that maybe one of the reasons why people would feel discouraged from learning languages is the increased use of machine translation. So we checked it, and to our surprise, it turned out that as many as 60% of the Europeans do not or rarely use machine translations, while 20% use it only several times a month, 14% say they use it several times a week. However, maybe it's just because our citizens don't even notice that sometimes they are using machine translation without even noticing it.
That's true.
It's sometimes offered automatically, so that might be an explanation.
We certainly use it a lot in our own offices, huh?
We wouldn't do without it, that's sure.
Especially you. But, Marius, we've shown a lot of graphs. I think maybe now we should stop with that. But citizens, please look at our Eurobarometer website, because there is so much more to explore. For instance, did you know that 31% of Europeans are using their foreign language, the first foreign language, every single day?
Every single day? Wow.
Not bad.
That's amazing, actually.
It's a lot.
Then again, Anna, did you know that as many as 21% of the EU citizens have never learned any other language than their own mother tongue?
Yeah, when I think about it, especially for the older generation, like my grandmother, she didn't have that as a priority.
The results will be definitely different 10 years from now. Yeah.
That's true. And another data that is new from this year, is the first time we ask citizens if they had more than one mother tongue, and 2% said yes, we do have more than one. So that is a new little fact that we gathered this year. But what about now we talk about these results with some of the countries that scored very nicely this year?
That's true. I think, Anna, we have done enough talking. Let's give the floor to some experts who will connect with us from the countries that actually have made a significant improvement since the last time we conducted this survey. And the first country we connect to is in the north of Europe, Finland. We have our expert with us, Outi Vilkuna. Outi, can you hear us?
Great.
Hi.
Yes, I can.
Hello,
Greetings from
Outi.
Finland.
We have seen that for Finland, the results for English have improved considerably since the last time we conducted the survey. So the percentage of people in Finland saying they can have a conversation in English has increased by 11%. What do you think? What is behind this success in Finland? How do you explain that?
Well, I think the main reason here is the early onset language learning of advanced language, which starts on the first year in primary school. And for most of Finland, the only option offered is English. So I think this is a major issue here, and major also reason behind the result. Secondly, I would say that as in many other countries, also the informal ways of learning languages, so gaming or using the internet, different platforms, this is very popular, and mainly the language there is English. Thirdly, I would say that subtitling in Finland, this has been the way for I would say always. So there is, you are subject to English language, but of course, luckily also other languages. And then maybe also own interest plays a role.
Excellent results for English. Thank you for that. If you were paying attention before, we were asking citizens about attitudes to language. Should we speak one foreign language? Should we speak more than one foreign language? We have the results for Finland on the screen. And actually, while for the first foreign language, the results are overwhelmingly high, you know, like 82%, 81% thinks that we all should speak one foreign language. For the second foreign language, they are quite low. It's one of the countries that scored less high. Is this something that surprises you, or do you see an explanation there?
Well, I think that one explanation might be that Finns already have 3 languages. They have their mother tongue, which is Finnish or Swedish, and then they have the first foreign language, so to speak, starting, as I referred to, the early onset language learning, so from the first year of primary school. And then they will have a third language being Swedish if they have Finnish as a mother tongue, or Finnish if they have Swedish as a mother tongue, then a bit later on. So they already have 3 languages. And then again, there has been a lot of discussion, public discussion in Finland, whether it's enough to have English or should you have other languages as well. And there is the idea that maybe English is enough. Well, we might have a different opinion, but I think this has also played a role here.
I see. In any case, you are one of the front runners. We have seen how Finland was scoring really high in languages. And as you say, it's not just English that is mandatory, but also the other languages. You know, we work with Erasmus+. Is this a program that has been helping also in Finland to improve language learning?
Yes, I would say that there's a great interest, and there has been a great interest to have partnerships outside Finland in other European countries. Of course, with the pandemic, all of this was not done for a certain time, but now they are picking up speed and making new connections, which is a very good thing.
Thank you very much for your insights, Outi. Thank you very much for being with us.
Mm-hmm.
And let's now travel a little bit more to the south and to the east, mainly to the Czech Republic. We have with us Mr. Tomáš Klinka.
Hello, Anna. Hello, Mariusz.
Hello, Tomáš.
Nice to see you.
Oh, ahoy.
How are you?
Ahoy.
The Czech
You?
Republic has also had excellent results if we compare with the results of 2012. Okay, and like Finland, you were coming from a lower base. So Finland was already very good at English, and then they went even farther. In Czech Republic, you are still a little bit below the average, but you went up really very much by 14 percentage points. I cannot read it very well.
Yeah, 14. Indeed.
Exactly. So and that's for English, but even for German, for French, you have had quite good results. What are, in your opinion, the factors of success?
So I agree with my Finnish colleague that the world that younger generations are living now is like full of English and also maybe other languages, thanks to what you already said, like streaming services and internet and so on. But maybe I would like to point out this opinion of Europeans that it's the schooling and the education that helps to promote and to learn languages, because we had a quite interesting shift in state education policy like 10-12 years ago, because in 2013 the second foreign language became a compulsory school subject in lower secondary school. It means that every pupil in Czech Republic, 13-14 years old, must start to learn another foreign language plus English. So it's basically German, but also Russian, French, and lately it's also Spanish. And it looks that it worked, because if you look at numbers, we get higher and higher, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's actually good that you mentioned this, because indeed, in general, in the EU, the picture is less optimistic when it comes to learning more than just English. But you, as the member of the Association of French Teachers in the Czech Republic, I guess you know better how it looks like, for example, with French or other languages?
Yeah, it also depends on the motivation of the state to promote an idea. So as you said from the beginning, we are living in a multilingual or plurilingual Europe, and this decision to promote languages it's clearly a political decision, but it's a good decision. So if you force the system to support languages, it would work. And then maybe to give you some more detailed scope, I'm sure that, for example, in the Czech Republic, the teachers of secondary foreign languages like French, German, and Spanish teachers are always like really motivated because they have to a little bit fight for their students, because even if the subject is compulsory in the same school, you have some part of students that choose Spanish, for example, some choose French. So you have to always be like a good motivated teacher to be attractive to your students. So this is also part of the policy, and again, I think it's working.
Well, it's definitely good that they have so many languages on offer, to choose from.
It's not true for every school, but we try.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Tomasz.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
And we have still one more country that
In
we
the
are going to
south,
connect to.
yeah.
Now we go to the south. We are going to Portugal with Professor Moreira da Silva. Hello. How are you today? In the case of Portugal, again, we see very good results since 2012. Again, like in the case of Czech Republic, you were coming from a little bit of a lower base, but you are really catching up and doing better. So 14 percentage points up for English in particular. That is where you scored higher. Also a country where overwhelming results for the need of speaking at least one more foreign language, and even very high results also for two, so more than one. So, Professor, what do you think are some factors of success in the case of Portugal?
You are muted. Could you unmute yourself, Professor?
Sorry, hello. Much has changed in Portugal in the last decade. I think now you're hearing me. So, beginning again, much has changed in Portugal in the last decade. In 2014, the compulsory learning of English, teaching and learning of English was introduced in primary schools. So children with the age of 8, they start learning their second language while they are still in the primary school. And not just that, I have to agree with my colleagues. Nowadays, most of our young people live and create their own learning opportunities and learning environments in the digital world. When they play with another friend, when they see a video, interact with an influencer, a YouTuber, when they chat, they are learning, and they are also creating environments for themselves to learn. Another thing that happened is that we have had a considerable growth in economical terms, and that means that we have attracted quite a lot of foreign companies and have therefore created a need to understand and to be able to use languages inside those environments that they work with. So nowadays we have, I would say, lots of opportunities for our young students and for our young generation, but they have to have and learn a language, and that language is of course English. English is an asset. English can be seen as a capacity that promotes their employment, promotes their personal development, but that also helps them, for instance, to find a job abroad. These opportunities are connected, as my colleagues have just described, to the way we also see the importance of languages. The government and the population have understood the need to learn an extra language. We do not just offer English. As soon as our youngsters enter their 7th year, they are offered the opportunity to learn a second language, and this second language may be Spanish, French, German, or Chinese Mandarin, or Chinese. So there is a lot of promotion of language learning in every aspect, and the government supports this policy, not just the government, population in general.
Certainly good to hear that they support not just the learning of English, but also other languages. That's definitely very positive.
As you know, Portugal has always been a country that is open to the world. So there are many opportunities to share ideas with people from every other country that come and visit us. Tourism has increased a lot. Many of our visitors come from neighbor countries like Spain and France, and I believe that has helped a lot to support the growth in the learning of these languages too.
What about the role of policy, Professor? I understand that children start from very early on now
Yes,
with
indeed.
mandatory classes. Is that correct?
Yes, they are exposed at the age of 8 to English. English has become mandatory in 2014. And since then, it has been the teaching of English has been there since 2014. So that means that they study English at least until they are 15, until the 8th grade. And then most of the schools continue to offer English throughout the secondary school and throughout the secondary education. Not just that, many families invest in the teaching or in the learning skills of their sons and their daughters when it comes to learning a language, because they understand that learning a language will be important for their future and will be important also for their competitiveness in terms of finding a job both inside Portugal and abroad.
Absolutely. We are working in my department with Erasmus+. Do you see it as having a positive effect in language learning from your experience?
I believe the Erasmus project brought us a new reality, a completely new reality. We have received thousands of students, many thousands of students in all our universities and polytechnics spread across the country. And that brought a new reality, a reality where those populations could be close to foreign-speaking students, which they had not been before, and could listen to more than one language in public spaces. And this shifted this landscape of the public spaces. They became multicultural, they became multilingual, and Erasmus had a really important role in this. Also, it allowed many of our students to travel abroad and to have an opportunity to learn other languages, other cultures. And that was very interesting because I believed it helped them to create more talent also, and to create a better vision of what Europe is, of course, and what a European citizen should be.
Thank you so much for giving us this insight.
Thank you very much. Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Well, we can see that some of these factors of success from our three countries are pretty similar. So policy, of course, is important when languages is mandatory, when they are introduced from an early age, but also just this reality of young people being exposed in particular to English, through the internet, through gaming, through subtitles from the films they watch. So all this has, of course,
from an early age, actually.
It's all about exposure, isn't it? And that is why Erasmus also is so important, because it gives us the opportunity to travel, to practice, and this is...
Meet people from the other country.
Exactly, that is how you learn languages, isn't it? So, yeah. Well, so these are some of the good examples of what is happening. I think that now we are going already slowly towards our concluding remarks, because we are already coming to the end of the program. So for that concluding remarks, I would like to go back to my Director General. Pia, can you give your concluding remarks?
Let me start by saying that I'm particularly inspired by what we have just learned from the member states that have made significant progress in improving language learning since the last Eurobarometer survey in 2012. They've shown that with well-targeted policy, matched by the ever-growing importance of foreign languages in modern life, we can make serious improvement in terms of teaching and learning second and even third languages. Back in 2018, the European Union identified multilingualism as one of the 8 key competences for lifelong learning. We did this because we know that knowledge of languages opens doors. Languages broaden horizons, improve opportunities for employment, and improve social inclusion. And for many, myself included, learning a new language can be the beginning of a life-changing journey in personal and professional development. Language learning is also one of the building blocks of the European education area, with free movement of learners where learning, studying, and research is not hampered by borders or administrative barriers. And as we have heard in detail, the results of the recent Eurobarometer on Europeans and their languages shows us that people overwhelmingly agree on the importance of language learning, with 86% of respondents endorsing the idea that everybody should be able to speak at least one foreign language. But the results are still sluggish regarding the learning of second foreign languages. Learning one foreign language can be a big task for anyone to take on, especially when juggling with other responsibilities like school, work, or family. So it is understandable that people find it more difficult to take up two. However, this is where the EU's learning mobility opportunities like Erasmus Plus can shine through. A large proportion of respondents to the Eurobarometer said that having opportunities to learn and travel abroad would incentivize language learning. And Erasmus Plus provides exactly this opportunity. In addition to learners in higher education, now pupils can also benefit from Erasmus Plus, in addition to vocational education and training learners. And tools like our online language support can help participants to improve their knowledge of the language they will need during their time abroad. For language teachers, Erasmus Plus also offers a great professional development opportunity. The European School Education Platform offers resources in 27 languages, including guidelines about how to find partners for Erasmus Plus applications and online courses. And you will hear more about this here at the end of today's event. Our eTwinning initiative helps teachers to develop virtual language learning networks between schools from different countries. And we are reinforcing valorization tools such as the European Language Label. This label recognizes quality projects in language teaching and learning, from early school education and care to vocational education and training. And from this quality viewpoint, one conclusion is that we can advance language competences best if they are not treated as isolated school subjects, but where pupils see second languages at work in concrete contexts, in classes like geography or history, through school movie clubs or theater performances. And as we can see, we have made some progress since 2012 in improving learning outcomes, but we have a lot more to do. And that's why languages are at the heart of our work in creating the European education area. They're indispensable for making learning mobility opportunities accessible to all and building mutual understanding across cultures and countries. And I hope that the examples you have heard today of best practices and practical tools help to inspire you on your own language journey, whatever it may be. Thank you, merci, vielen Dank, tack.
Thank you very much for joining us for the presentation of the results of our recent Eurobarometer on Europeans and their languages.
Marius, I'm glad that we could share some of these results of what is happening in Europe and in the citizens' hearts. But there's so much more that people interested in language can see from the European School Education Platform. Pia was just mentioning that there are so many resources. There are free courses, there are articles, and in the month of September, the School Education Platform is in fact focusing on languages because they want to celebrate with us the European Day of Languages. So if you want to continue exploring on this subject, please go visit the website. And to give you just a little example of what you can find there, we are going to show you now a little teaser of how one school in Belgium is using innovative teaching techniques for languages. Let's watch it. The full video is available on the website.
J'essaye vraiment que les apprentissages linguistiques les servent pour des vraies interactions avec des personnes, surtout avec des jeunes de leur âge, et aussi les surprendre et leur proposer des vrais défis. On fait beaucoup de projets Erasmus+, aussi une approche ludique. Pour moi, c'est super important que mes élèves soient motivés.
L'enseignement de nos rêves est possible. On fait beaucoup des jeux et ça nous permet d'apprendre tout en s'amusant.
Finalement, on apprend une langue pour interagir avec les autres, même si ce qu'on dit, c'est pas parfait, et aussi pour comprendre le mode de vie de l'autre, pour s'ouvrir au monde.
Dear participants, dear language lovers, thank you so much for celebrating the European Day of Languages with us and with the European Commission.
Please join us again next year. It was a pleasure to be able to share this moment with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Hasta siempre.
Do widzenia.